back again. Thanks for having me,
Thank you.
Mayor and Council and staff. Yeah, so just, I won't keep you too long because I know none of us really want to stay that long. So just a couple of things. I appreciate the public input that happens at budget meetings, and I'm wondering if something could be considered as a change. One of the things that's often I hear from the public is that there isn't an opportunity outside of being able to send in letters or phone counselors. There's not a lot of opportunity besides public hearings, which we know are happening a little bit less at times, to address council unless you put an application. But there perhaps could be opportunities for the public to address council at open periods. I know other municipalities do this where they have times once every few months or so on where they have an opportunity for people to come and address council with concerns. So I'd like you to consider looking at an opportunity to have that change at some point. Having opportunities to speak with public officials, I think, is important. And I know maybe I'm the only person among a couple of others that might show up to this because of the timing. But even considering the opportunity and giving that ability, it's not even who shows up, but giving the opportunity for that, that's important. I also would like to continue to see, when it comes to public input on projects, moving away from just, since we're moving out of COVID, just online and moving into more in-person public input, moving back into having input sessions in person, which I know many people valued. So I'm hoping that if we're moving to doing public input on parks or other developments, that we're seeing not just online but in person. At the end of the budget process, I also hope that when you consider rates, that you consider doing the smaller rate on residents this time. I know that council often puts the larger rate on residents and the smaller one on businesses. I know that many people on council are business owners, and some of you may not reside within Vernon, but I think it's important, especially at this time, to consider the impact on all residents. And I understand being a business owner is hard, but I think it's important to recognize that anything that you can do to lessen the impact on the budget is important. When it comes, I just want to address about Sunday openings at the library. One of the things that's important about the Sunday openings at the library is that the library operates not just as a place to get books, but it's also a warming place for our community. And in the summer, it's also a cooling place. So it's a gathering place for people to go in our community as a safe spot and as a place within our community that anybody can go to that's open. So I want to thank you for funding that, and I want to make sure that that stays a place that's funded on Sundays as well, because many in our community that can't afford or have ability to go anywhere else gets an opportunity to go there. So I hope that helps you, Councillor Durney. Also, I'd like to express an opportunity, if you can, to perhaps submit a letter to the provincial government around reclaimed water use. We don't get an opportunity to use a reclaimed water for doing things like watering crops. And I know that we have a lot of agricultural water users, and our reclaimed water could be utilized for much more than it already is. And rather than putting it into the lake, or utilizing it elsewhere, we could be lobbying the provincial government to use that water elsewhere. And that could be a way for us to get more money as well. So if we could lobby the provincial government to change usage on that, that's something that perhaps would be beneficial. In terms of the one flagpole that has been passed by council, I might encourage that be looked at maybe doing more than one, especially if we're looking at the types of flags that we had flown this last year when we looked at the Okanagan Nation and the Silt people were able to have their flags flown. There was more than one flag flown that day, and I would like the opportunity to maybe look at adding to that pole if there's money available later in the budgets. In terms of adding money, I think one of the mistakes that was made in the last couple of years in budget was reducing our DCCs. If we're looking at being able to add money If we look at other communities, the DCCs, for instance, in Peachland are 30,000 versus Vernon being 20,000. West Kelowna is 26,000. That's a 30% difference to here. Penticton is 25,000. We have an opportunity here. DCCs are higher everywhere else. We're not suffering for that. And the focus of DCCs should be to ensure that they cover the actual costs of servicing new licensed subdivisions, and so that burden's not put on the taxpayer. We need our DCCs, and when we're doing that, having reduced our fees, to my estimate, we've removed around 111 million worth of community projects from getting funded by developers. You know, this is a gap. This is an ever-widening gap, and you're, to my mind, you're taxing residents more. If one of the things I get promoting development, but I don't see the need to have our DCCs reduced. Everybody else is increasing their DCCs, and we reduced ours. We waive DCCs when it comes to nonprofits. That's awesome. When they're building housing and that, but you know, it's something where I'm not seeing the need to having to do this. If we're looking at bringing an income to the municipality, I think that's something that we can definitely look at changing. Taxpayers are definitely stretched at this particular time. If we look at what we've just raised in sewer rate increases over the next few years, we're looking at an 18% increase overall. We've got the active living center that's come in. And so, you know, there are other things we could look at, like our reclaimed water irrigation rates. You know, rates were frozen from 2018 to originally frozen in 2018. From 2022 through 2026, they're frozen. Now, the financial impacts of freezing rates was not calculated when the 2018 decision was made. The cost to make it is in the millions annually, while our sales barely top 200,000. Now, I understand that the reasoning around that is because it's reclaimed water and we want to have it used, but you know, we're supposed to set the fees so that the amount of a fee should be sufficient to recover the cost of a service and ensure its future sustainability. Fees are generally applied on a user-pay basis so that only those who benefit from the service bear the fee. You know, I know there's not a lot of pressure to seek new customers for spray irrigation, but we might want to look at our deal with Predator Ridge that we made in 2018 for that pipe that only services, because it only services one customer, and that Lone Pine Ranch, and it's time to look at raising that rate. So just some suggestions that we can look at, and I hope that when you're looking at the fact that, as was noted earlier, that Mayor Cummings said that the majority of people that are residing in our community are earning less than $37,000, that we can look at not only maintaining service levels, but also being accommodating to those that are not earning a lot of money. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Tucker. Much please.